Hello there. I am Erin Smith, for those of you who don't know. I am a professional tarot reader and an associate marriage and family therapist. And this is my full moon reading for the month of May. So on May 31st, that's on Sunday, we will be having a full moon in the sign of Sagittarius. And so I wanted to check in with the cards and see what they might have to say about energetic themes that are presenting themselves to us, both in our personal lives and in the collective, and how we might skillfully navigate these energies and what we might need to know about them, how they're coalescing. So I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to go silent. I'm going to concentrate while I shuffle, and I will be with you momentarily. I'm just going to say a prayer over these cards. So I think really what is coming through here in this poll is we are being called to become more aware out of the old ideas that we might have been operating out of and examine how we might let go of those old ideas long enough to explore something new, new possibilities. And what those new possibilities might look and feel like. Generally speaking, when we are clinging to a view of ourselves or the world at large, we do so because it offers us some sense of security or stability, even if it's a limiting self-belief. And that is, there's sort of some irony in that, right? That why would we choose to believe something about ourselves that maybe wasn't entirely favorable? And this very much speaks to for those of you who don't know me, my background and training as a psychotherapist centered largely around learning about attachment theory and understanding how, as human beings, our sense of self and our worldview is shaped significantly in the first year of life. At a time where we don't have the ability to choose how we're going to formulate that view. It is entirely constructed out of the conditions that we're raised within. The experience that we have as 1 year olds shapes the way that we feel about ourselves and the world for decades to come. In some cases, our whole lives, right? That doesn't necessarily have to be the case. I don't want to suggest that um, it's not possible to change. In fact, with advances in neuroscience, there's really, it's much more acceptable that the brain is plastic, it's malleable, that we update models. But specifically, when we are operating out of an insecure attachment, and really what that means is that when we don't get our most basic needs met, and I'm not just talking about material needs here, I'm not talking even necessarily, although this is true as well, about like being fed properly and regularly, about having, warm clothing or a roof over your head. Certainly, those things are important. But even specifically, this very essential experience of being seen and attuned to, and, attunement is really this ability for our caregivers to recognize that we have a need, and that need is being expressed through emotions. For any of you who've been around children, you know that infants express themselves through crying, right? If they have a need and it feels urgent, because of course, in the experience of a 1 year old, they cannot provide that need for themselves. And so there is a kind of urgency in expressing this need to the caregiver. If that need is not tended to, if the caregiver cannot see, cannot feel that that child needs tending, right? I see you, I feel you. I may not even know what you're expressing, but I care about your well-being, and so I'm going to investigate in a sensitive way. Oh, are you cold? Do you just need to be held? Are you hungry? Is your diaper wet? I am investigating because of my care for your well-being. And what this does is that this experience of being tended to in a good enough way, um, not only, in the moment addresses the need, but it gets internalized as a sense of like, the world is a safe place. The world it is capable of providing for me in ways that feel good. So, of course, if this doesn't happen, the opposite becomes true. We experience the world as either treacherous, certainly that can be the case, right? I cried and expressed a need and I got hit or ignored, right? There was a punitive response to my need. Um, this gets internalized as I'm not enough. No matter how hard I try, no matter what I do, I'm not enough. There's not enough of the things in life that I need to reach me. I am in exile. I feel like I'm in exile. I feel alone. I feel abandoned. I feel in exile. And this sensation, it resides deeply within us. When this is your experience as an infant, this lives in the body, in the felt sense of the body, in terms of the way we experience the world emotionally. And then, of course, as we grow, as we start to develop a narrative sense of self, like I am Erin, this is me, I go out in the world, and when this happens to me, this is, how things unfold. This is a more cognitive construction to sort of explain this underlying feeling that I have. And ultimately, what Spirit is asking us to do is to notice when these old wounds resurface, when we are moving through the world and we are, say, we're in a relationship and we don't feel seen and understood by our partner, and this deep feeling of longing and loneliness rises to the surface. And it feels so much bigger than just this incident that has brushed up against this old feeling or old idea. We are called to be with that part of ourselves that is in exile and to offer ourselves comfort and soothing, reassurance that there are, in fact, people and opportunities that are available for us to be resourced, for us to get our needs met. And yet, when we are operating out of the wound, we do not see them. So if you come to accept that you're just, you know, you're going to be ignored in a relationship, you seek out relationships that confirm what is already in the storehouse of awareness. And you may not even see the people, the partners that are capable of meeting your needs, seeing who you are, being collaborative and reciprocating in the way that they interact with you and others. These orphans, they walk right on by. They walk right on by the church that is lit from within. You can feel it. They're in the snow. It's cold. They're crippled by the deprivation of things that they need. But they don't see what is available to them. They walk right on by. You can feel the warmth in there, but they believe that the good things in life are for everyone else and not for them. And so, again, we are being called to challenge these old ideas that are so deeply held. Sometimes we're not even aware of them. It is just this background noise that we take for granted is the way that things are. So we're being called to come into a greater awareness of some of these deeply held beliefs and to examine them, right? Where are we getting stuck? Where are we getting caught up? Where are we turning to an old narrative that we can't seem to shake? Even though there are parts, like this is ultimately extremely frustrating. It's something that happens a lot with people that I work with in my therapy practice. They will know it here. Intellectually, they will understand that they are worthy of the good things in life. And yet they continue to find themselves in situations um, that don't confirm what they know to be intellectually true. There is nothing more frustrating than getting stuck in this old way of being, even though you want things to be different, you know that you deserve for things to be different, and yet here you are again, playing out the old patterns in your life that feel like a well-worn neurological groove. That is the essence of the Five of Swords. The Four of Swords is taking respite from the battle of life. It's being in reflective repose. And I often associate meditation with the Four of Swords. And the reason that this is so important is that When we are emotionally activated, it is easy to become, especially if those emotions are particularly unpleasant. It's easy to become flooded or overwhelmed by those feelings and to not be able to gain any more insight about our situation. And again, neurology shows that this is true, that, our prefrontal cortex, which is sort of the wise mind, the one that chooses possibilities, it's sort of in charge of executive function. It goes offline. It is not available when we are emotionally overwhelmed, when we're flooded. And so a practice of meditation, of being able to observe what is happening inside of ourselves, like, and what those triggers were, and to really examine the somatic repercussions of being in that state of overwhelm. Oh, so I noticed that when my partner said that, I had this wave of fear and anger come over me. And the experience of that fear and anger was um, racing thoughts, a flushed face, tension in my neck and shoulders, an elevated heart rate, sort of gripping in the stomach area, and nausea. That I'm able to notice this cascade of sensations that come as a result of certain engagements, and that the I can experience all that from the perspective of the witness. This is what meditation does for us. When we are able to notice activity that's happening in sense space and recognizing that the felt sense of the body, externalized sounds in the environment, internal talk within narrative sense space, things that are happening in the visual field, that all this activity arises oftentimes in conjunction with one another to feel like a solid thing. And if, again, I can track everything that's going on in these different sense spaces and stay present with it, oftentimes I am afforded some kind of new insight, or I'm even just allowed for these sensations, these feelings to move through me without getting stuck on this old narrative or old idea. So sometimes that looks like confronting the wound. The wound gets activated in some experience within the present tense. The wound is old, and so it's big and feels overwhelming. And instead of getting caught up in a narrative, which might invite defenses, to stay open and stay vulnerable. And maybe that means that I have to cry. Maybe that means that instead of retreating into this state of isolation, I ask for help from trusted people in my life. and and the ability for me to stay present and stay sensitively attuned to my own experience, I'm able to choose new behaviors that may in effect help to loosen my grip on this old narrative, right? Because that's really what we're being called to do, is to notice how our defenses, those defenses that we cling to for this sense of protection. I need protection from the world. The world is not safe. And so I've developed these ways of being to protect myself. They also keep anything from moving. They keep anything new from coming in. And that is, in essence, what the Four of Pentacles is about. It is a kind of contractive energy where we're clinging to the things that we think we need. And in many cases, they are the things that we need. But our tight grip on them, um, it strangles the life out of whatever it is that we're trying to cultivate. whether that's an internal thing within ourselves or some external way of being. Again, this idea that I have to hold on so tightly, it it is an illusion. It is often the thing that stymies our own growth and expansion. And so, again, to have compassion for ourselves, there are reasons why we do these things. And to stay in that self-compassion and to be tender with ourselves, to recognize that we can be authentic, that we can be vulnerable, and that it is possible that we are more likely to really get our needs met if we are willing to operate out of this authenticity. The Seven of Swords is what I call the people pleasing card. And it's sort of like being performative, right? Again, always out of this need to be seen, to get our needs met, to be, you know, to be acknowledged, to feel resourced. And we think to ourselves, I'm if I'm my true self, I'm going to be rejected. I'm going to be cast out. So I'm going to put forth this persona that I think is what others want me to be. And I'm going to do my song and dance in order to be loved or to be hired or to be acknowledged in my field, whatever that looks like, whatever that need is that we're trying to fulfill. This idea that I have to make sure that I'm pleasing you. And it takes me out of connecting more deeply with what's going on internally. It has this tendency to not allow the experience of getting our needs met to land. So imagine it's like this, right? Imagine you think to yourself, I'm not okay. People don't like who I am. I have to figure out who I need to be loved. And so I've constructed this persona and I put it out in front of me. And even if people are responding to that persona favorably, there is always this deeper suspicion that if they knew who I truly was, then they wouldn't love me. Then I would most assuredly be rejected. And so there's always this sneaking suspicion or this, again, internalized belief system that's constructed out of the wound. Well, I'm not really lovable because even if I'm getting the response that I want, it's not actually an authentic expression of myself. And so, again, we are just called to be observers of what ideas have we been operating out of. And when we follow them all the way back, what is the wound that was the original source of that construction? And this ability or desire to let go even just a little bit, right? To put down our defenses and show up in a more authentic way in the world. And what this does is it creates new possibilities. When we stop responding to the world as it was, we are available to show up to the world as it is. When we are able to come into the present moment and again, operate out of that observer, it's not that we stop feeling the way that we were feeling, but we are able to be present with it without taking that kind of automatic uh, reaction, that out of self-protection. When we're able to stay present enough to take a skillful action based on what might feel more enlivening. Wand energy is pointing to this passion this life force energy that lives within all of us. We all know the difference between, doing a rote task and doing something that feels meaningful, that sets your soul on fire. This is what we are called to do, to begin to set ourselves out on a path where we can begin again, based on this acknowledgement that it is possible to live a rich and meaningful life. And what might happen if we honored that within ourselves? The Two of Wands, he's traversing new territory. And the most important thing to remember when you are on the brink of a new experience, it is essential that we throw out the old maps. Because if we're operating out of the old maps, we're going to keep getting what we've always gotten. But if we're able to be where our feet are at and take the next right indicated step, one that is built on acknowledging that flame within, then we are bound to get somewhere that feels more like true love, right? That is really what's being expressed here in the Two of Cups. Look at this image. This is what we all want, right? To show our true selves to another and to have that person accept us fully with deep appreciation and acknowledgement. And out of that sense of safety, to offer themselves to us in this perfect reciprocal exchange. That's what we all want, every single one of us. And what Spirit is saying is that when we let go of our old ideas and we show up in the present moment and begin to take right action, it is possible for us to come into a more balanced, transcendent experience of our own lives. Temperance is the alchemist card. Alchemy is the 14th century science of transmuting base metals into gold. And this is a metaphor for transmuting our pain into enlightenment, or, self-abandonment into the deepest compassion. And it is this acknowledgement that so many things have to come together to create this elemental experience of life as an embodied being. And we are now at this time in a position where we're capable of a kind of transcendence that maybe wasn't always possible. So yeah, we're being called to be the observer of our own experience, to notice where we're getting stuck, to bring compassion to those old wounds that are driving that narrative, and to trust that if we let go and we take present action, that we can have that love that we all richly deserve. So I hope that this was helpful, and I look forward to this full moon promise for myself and for all of us. Many blessings.